and call the Ellis County Commission meeting to order. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Donna, please call the roll.
Commissioner Butch Schleier.
Present.
Chair Dean Hazelworth.
Present.
Commissioner Destin Long.
Present.
We have a quorum present.
Thank you. Any changes to the order of business this evening? Any executive sessions? No? None? None? Move on to prior minutes. We have one set to approve, June 10th, 2019. Any corrections?
No issues.
Look good.
And approved as presented, Donna. Next item, consent agenda items A through G. We need a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion, we approve consent agenda items A through G as presented.
Now second that.
Donna, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries 3-0. Issues from persons not on the order of business this evening. Do we have anyone? Moving on, introduction of new employees. Any new employees? Yes, Bill Ring. Okay, you get to go first. Ladies first, and Bill Ring's next.
Thank you, Commissioners, for some time on your agenda tonight. I'm Donna Krug with the Cottonwood Extension District and serve as the Director. We have formed, I know we have a couple new faces since January, so I have been here, but our entire staff has not had the chance to meet you. And so since we had 2 new hires within the last month, I thought it was important that we come and visit. So those 2 individuals, if you want to come on up, the 2 that I'm introducing specifically, I want you to get a close look at them. Lauren Waltz is our district horticulture agent serving both Barton and Ellis counties. Her office will be here in Hayes. She's already had some interesting visits, home visits to different yards and lots of calls already. This is a busy time that she's come into our office. So Lauren, native of Garden City, but living in Hayes now and happy to be here. And then our other new hire this past month is Michelle Barron. And Michelle is the 4-H and Youth Development Agent in the Great Bend office. And so they have something for you. The Ellis County Fair is just around the corner, so we have fair books for you. So I think we brought 5 over. If you would like one, it has a schedule in it.
Thank you, Lauren.
And I will just give you a little preface. Thank you. And actually, I should tell you a little bit more about Michelle. She lives in the Odin community and has lived in Barton County for 32 years. So, but we're really glad to have both of them on board as new agents. I do want to just take a couple more minutes. You guys can go ahead and have a seat. And I just think everybody else, if I call their name, would stand. And that way you can kind of put that name and face together. I'll finish with those of us from the Great Bend office. And that would include Alicia Bohr. And Alicia is the Agriculture and Natural Resources Agent serving out of the Great Bend office. We have a couple other support staff that didn't make the trip to Hayes today. Brenda Walton is our office professional, and Mikey Hughes is our summer intern. So now we're going to look and see who's here from the rest of the Hayes staff, and that includes Stacy Campbell. He is the, go ahead and stand up. Stacy is the Agriculture and Natural Resources Agent here in the Hayes office. Susan Schlichting is our 4-H and Youth Agent, also serving Ellis County, but in the Cottonwood District. And then Bernie Unruh, I introduced her a couple months ago to you as our Family Community Wellness Agent, serving out of the Hayes office. Now, I haven't introduced everybody, have I? We have 2 others who walked over with us tonight, and they are Dane Hansen interns. And so I thought this was a neat opportunity for you to meet them as well. I heard that, I think the last time I was at your meeting, Dane Hansen is, that whole system has been very good for anyone who lives in the right area. And so we are very blessed, I think, to have the interns housed out of the Hayes office and serving Northwest Kansas counties. And so I'll do ladies first. Nicole Kane is, I think from Emporia, if I remember right, correct? And a student at K-State. And finishing in December. Yep. Yes, in December with an agriculture degree. So we're excited to have her. Her role is more in the area of leadership development. So she's got some great things going with day camps and things like that. And then Eric Espinosa. And Eric, tell us where your home is. I'm from Garden City. You're from Garden City. So Eric is working more in the area of drones and robotics and doing all sorts of fun activities with kids related to that. Am I correct? Would you want to correct any of that?
Just mainly drones, really.
Mainly drones. So again, we're happy to have them. And then we have one other summer intern that I need to mention, and that is Corey Ridnour, and she is here in the Hayes office just helping with a lot of the pre-fair activities. And then Teresa Mice is our office professional here in Hayes. So I think I got everybody, right? So we're up to full staff, and that's always a good feeling. And then I guess just one other quick thing, and we are working on budget, and it looks like things are going to work well for us as a district to be able to come in just a smidge under what we were last year. And I know that always pleases people to know that we aren't going to need to be raising anything. So besides introducing the new staff, I wanted to tell you that. So any questions for us?
Thank you for bringing everybody with you, and
Sure.
welcome all the new interns and new
Yeah.
staff, and welcome to
Yeah.
Ellis County.
Thank you. It's great to have that youthful energy in the office for sure. So thanks so much.
Thank you. Bill Ring.
Good evening, Commissioners. Bill Ring, Public Works Director. It's great to see all that purple here, isn't it?
Hey, go Cats.
Anyway, my pleasure tonight to introduce our newest employee. He's a heavy equipment operator at the landfill, Dean Klaus. He comes to us from Colorado, but he's originally Hayes High graduate, and he was just enlightened me a little bit. His grandfather worked for Road and Bridge a number of years ago, and his dad was on the county fire board for a number of years. So I'd like to just welcome him, as he's doing a great job for Vern out there, and he's enjoying working here.
Welcome, Dean.
Yeah, welcome.
Thank you. Welcome to Ellis County. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you very much.
Next, I'm going to back up a little bit. I was going to ask Sandy Scott, you weren't on the agenda, but I know you was you wanted to be under issues for persons not on the order of business this evening, or not? I thought originally she was, maybe. Yes, that's okay.
Yeah, I was gonna mention that later if you
Sorry.
didn't back up, but
No.
you just did it perfectly, so
Sorry, because she called me, I thought.
no problem.
Sorry about that, Phil. I took Phil's thunder away. I apologize.
Well, this evening, I do want to talk to you. I visited with Philip, and he kind of encouraged us to come back and visit with you about how our budget is set up. And so I just wanted to kind of go over some things with you. I do have. I'm used to doing that, so. Kind of wanted to go over with you guys on
Thank you.
how the budget is actually set up. We say we needed $72,646 for our budget, and this included a $10,750 cost share program that we and the county established in 1981 in November, and was actually implemented in 1982. And I did a little history on it, and in your packets that I gave you was one of the first contracts that shows the erosion and shows the finished product with the terraces. And we have built from there. And when I looked at what was funded at that time, it was $8,000 for that program, and we've used it every year. So when you guys did the budget cut, and we understand this, we really truly do. We don't want to be in your chairs. making these budget cuts, but we fully understand that you have to. But we are asking for a little bit of direction on how you see our budget. We have an operating budget, and then in there, we also fund the Ellis County Cost Share Program for the $10,750. If there's any way that you guys can see to help us out with our budget, we can take the cut. We'll make it work. But if we stay at the 55,000, the board, we had a little work session the other night, or the other morning, and there's just no way to fund that Ellis County Cost Share Program if we stay at the 55,000. We just can't take that big a cut in our operating fund. So we're asking you guys to think about reinstating, I guess, the cost share program. And are there any questions?
Do my fellow commissioners understand what that cost share program is and how that works?
I can do that.
Familiar with it?
I'll be glad to go through
I
that.
understand it, but I didn't know if they did or if they were familiar
I'll
with
be
it.
glad to do that. We normally have cost share money that goes out to producers, landowners, and tenants to install terraces, terrace rebuilds, grassed waterways, pipelines, range seedings. In this Ellis County Cost Share Program, it is basically new programs, or new practices, I'm sorry. So basically, it would be new terraces, new waterways, and now my brain went dead, and diversions. So Joe Farmer comes in, visits with us in the office and says, I have an issue out on my ground. Can you guys help me? And so we send somebody out in the field with him. They look at what the problem is out there, what the resource concern is, and then the technical staff comes back in, goes through what they think will solve his problem out there. That time we'll talk to the producer again and say, this is what we've come up with. These programs are the programs that might be able to help you. One of those program options is the Ellis County Cost Share Program. We also have state money, which is not run through our budget at all. We never handle that money. And we also, have federal money. And again, that's not run through our office at all. It's all handled way above us. So, but we give him some options on what he can do out there to fix that resource concern. And so he says, okay, I'm going to do the waterway, start with that, and eventually terrace into the waterway. So, and he'll say, he said, I don't want to do the federal program. I want to do it through you, through what I handle. So we set up and contract. I get the estimate from the technical staff, set up a contract, and have him come back in and actually sign a contract. And along with that contract is a 10-year maintenance agreement that he's going to maintain that practice for 10 years or the life of that practice. Most of the practices have a longer lifespan than 10 years. So, and then we talk to him, we give him all the information on the contract, we give him a list of contractors. It is up to that farmer, Joe Farmer, to contact a contractor, get on that contractor's list. Eventually, we'll go out and stake out the practice, whatever that is, and then the contractor builds it. We do certification on that practice, and then I can actually pay him with an actual check through my office. So in your packet of information I gave you, there's a little brochure in there that has pictures of the practices. Like I said, the main practices that we do through the Ellis County Cost Share Program are diversions, grass waterways, and terraces. Those are the main ones. When this program was set up, it was set up to work with the county, the road and bridges, so that we don't have as much sediment in the ditches. We're not running over the road, the water's not running over the roads and wiping them out. And I think through the years that I've been here, and prior to that, as you can see in the picture, I think that we followed those guidelines. So.
Commissioners, questions for Sandy?
And Philip, do you have what they requested and what we had suggested for the budget for them? What the difference was in front of you? I don't have that paperwork.
Well, to stay the same, it would have been 72,646, and the commission came up with 55,000. That, as Sandy was saying, the 72,646 included the 10,750.
Okay.
Right. I do have a little math here. It would, if we kept the 55,000 and that funded our operation fund, it would be a $6,906 cut,
Okay.
which is doable. I mean, we can figure out some way to make that work. Not sure how, but we will. That's their department. Not mine.
Sandy, is there anything magical about the 10,750 number, or if the commission were able to come up with a different number for the cost share, would that?
There's nothing magical about it. It has been funded at that level probably for about 15 years now. So even if you guys could come up with I'll say a major portion of it, that would be helpful. Our landowner limit that we can fund anybody at is $5,000. So like if your terrace project out there, you needed $9,000, I could fund $5,000 of that. That's the limit. So if you, we would try to leave it at the $5,000 because it seems to work the best, like when we're dealing with terraces and we have an 80 acre field that needs terraces, or if it needs 2 waterways, it usually maxes out the $5,000. It just gives them a boost to get the project done. If they're going to do waterways and they're thinking about the federal money for their project, a lot of times it's beneficial for them to go ahead and start with one of my programs, and then it gives them extra points in the federal program. So we work hand in hand with the cost share programs in our office. But no, there's no magic to the 10,750. It's just stuck in my head.
Are those funds utilized 100% every year?
They are.
Okay.
We actually have more applicants than we have money for.
Okay.
Right now, I can't, because we're in the process of what we call our July money. The money that we get from the county commissioners, it's March money. It's for people that are planning on putting in like Milo or things like that, so that they can get their work done prior to when they're going to plant that crop in the spring. With July money right now, we probably have 25 applications sitting there that we're going to be working, that we're actually doing field visits on and getting rankings. All of our applications are ranked. We try to get the most bang for our dollar out there, so we look at soil, slopes, leaching, erodibility index. We have a form that we go through, and when we get done with that form, that field has a number. And so say like Brett has a field and he has 75. If you have a field and it's 76, I'm going to offer you money first. And then I just work down the list based on that ranking score.
Is
And
the
if
money-
anybody wants to come help do that, they can most certainly can.
Oh, thank you.
I didn't think so.
Is it based on need of the farmer as far as financially, or is
No.
it just based on soil conservation?
It is
that-
based on soil, it is based on the land.
Okay.
Now, in our formula, there's been some misconception of that we tend to fund no-till farming more than we do would minimum till. In the formula, what I can't fix it, you can't fix it. You just tell me what you do out there, and the computer generates that number. It doesn't, and financial need doesn't play a part at all in our.
So it's basically an algorithm that'll throw out who they think you could get the most bang for the buck out of this money.
It's a rubric system that
Okay.
they go through, and so
Right.
based on your rubric, some are weighted more, how much of an impact is that land, and
Right.
the road and bridge, what is the runoff going to do there, and so.
And it's given as a grant, not as a loan. It's a.
It is not a loan.
Okay.
No, no. And
Sandy-
right now, the cost share rate is for new, like if you were going to do, like from July on, new terraces or a waterway is 70, is that right? 70% of the, and it's not of the actual cost. We develop what we call county average cost, and we take all of the year before projects and average them out. Some things we have to take a regional average cost for because we don't have enough data for that. But
Sandy, you mentioned you have these cost share funds as well as federal funds?
in the office,
Yeah.
yes.
And how many dollars in federal funds do you get allowed?
The federal funds are in two programs. One is what we call EQIP. It's a incentive program. It's environmental. I'm gonna have to think about what it stands for. We just say EQIP all the time. The EQIP program and the CSP program is the soil as a stewardship program. We probably have, and I don't have, let me check and see if I have that, because I had that last time. We probably have, and those federal contracts are multi-year contracts. They're not just one-year contracts. So I think in CSP, we have about 1.2 million that is actual contracts right now. And then in the EQIP program, I think there's about 2 million that is actually contracts coming into the county.
But a farmer does have a choice to use the cost share program or federal program? Does all the money every year get used up in the federal program?
Actually, Kansas is probably one of those states we're kind of looked at like premier states, I guess, if you want to call it that. Yes, we actually spend the money that they give us, and then if Illinois or South Dakota, whoever it is, can't use their funding, A lot of times it's funneled back into the state, and then the state uses their formulas on what county and how those are funded, how those contracts are funded. The one thing about federal program contracts is, like, if it's a multi-year contract, that money is set aside for that whole contract at that time. Where my program is set aside, there's no, if you're going to put the waterway in this year, 2 years later, when that waterway is established, you're going to have to come back in and reapply for my money if you stay with my programs. I will tell you that the federal programs usually pay more than what we can pay, but sometimes it isn't feasible to have somebody use the federal programs. Not everybody qualifies for that, just based on their practices and what they're doing out there.
Any other questions, commissioners?
The only other question I had is, it's a cost share program, so is the farmer required to put up some capital of their own in each of them, and is it matched at a certain amount?
It's
or-
not matched, it's just that we have a, like, if you were gonna put in terrace rebuilds, the program would pay 60% of the county average cost, and then whatever the contractor bills that landowner, he would pay, he's actually gonna pay the contractor in full, and then we're going to pay him 60% of that county average cost. So yes, he's going to have approximately 40% investment in that practice, which is a good thing.
Okay.
We fully believe in that.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad you brought it to our attention. I think I'll look into it a little closer, and maybe we rehash that idea. Think on it a little bit.
Well, Brett and Sandy, thank you very much for
We
coming.
really appreciate
Yeah, thank
the reconsideration for this, and thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
We'll move on to the drug court update. He looks nothing like Amanda Truen, but I know Amanda's out of town, so.
I am Amanda tonight. I'm Mike Smith, Chief Court Service Officer for Ellis County District Court. Just to give you an update on Ellis County Drug Court. Probably last fall, we received an amount from you guys to get our seating, to get drug court started. And that has been incredibly helpful. And what we're trying to do is apply for grants to get this, to completely fund everything that we've got. We have applied for a grant through the Bureau of Justice Administration. If we receive that grant, which we will not find out until, I believe, September 30th is when they are making the announcements on those. If we receive that, we'll have everything paid for 3 years, I believe is what the grant goes for. Part of the stipulation on the Bureau of Justice Administration grant was that there were some things that we could not apply for that we had applied for in another grant that we didn't receive. One of those things is incentives. The National Association of Drug Court Professionals recommends that we use incentives to motivate drug court participants, whether that be in the form of a $5 gift card at individual drug court sessions, or whether that be one of the other things that we use it for is a $30 or a different amount at times for transition from one phase to another. We have 5 different phases in our drug court, and we use those for motivation to progress through the drug court program. They're not a large amount. They are extremely valuable. The people really take to those. They are honored to get them. They are upset if they don't get them sometimes. But they have to earn them. And it's been incredibly successful for us to use that program. So since our Bureau of Justice Administration grant was applied for and we could not apply for those, we did apply for another one through the Heartland Community Foundation. We did not receive the amount that we requested, but we received an amount of $600 that we were awarded for that grant. And that grant is going to be used for, that should get us through the entire year for progressing through all the phases. Teresa Greenwood did a lot of work to apply for this grant, and we're very excited to have that grant money. And we thank Heartland Community Foundation for that grant. It's going to be very valuable to us. So I wanted to update you guys that we received that and that we've applied for more, and that drug court is going really well, and we're excited to show some of the successes at some point. And we've had a lot of successes up to this point. We have not had a graduate yet, and we won't expect one of those until January, February, I believe, is what our first graduate is eligible to graduate from this program. We're really excited about it, and it's really doing some good things in the community.
Good deal. Thank you very much for the update.
All right.
No, no questions.
Thank you for coming. Next item, reclassification of Administrative Assistant Darren Meyer.
Good evening, Commission. Darren Myers, Director of Fire and Emergency Management. Here tonight for a couple different reasons. First one is for the reclassification of the administrative assistant position within our department, or within the department. Originally had this discussion with the county administrator more than a year or so ago about the proper staffing level that we need, or would be more proper and adequate for what we're trying to do with the fire and emergency management. However, adding another position kind of reduced what we tried to do in the past, which over the last couple of years, we've combined the fire chief, the emergency manager, the communications director, and now I guess currently with the administrative assistant position all down into one. But the administrative assistant position within the department is it's very minimal amount of work that you can actually have them do outside the office to assist the operations within the fire department. Vehicle maintenance, hiring administrative assistants, going to be hard to maintain vehicles, to go pick up and deliver vehicles throughout the county, keep track and maintain pump tests, SCBA tests, do fit testing, ladder testing, as well as even the different training that person would be able to provide within the fire district itself, as well as to look at for community risk reduction. The position I think the volunteer staff, that's almost impossible. However, we are rated to the same standards, and in doing so, there's a lot of things that we need to do in addition to just when the pager goes off, hopping on a truck and going. And there's different supposed to go out and inspect every single business within our area every year, provide hydrant inspections to the hydrants that we have out in the county. So there's a multitude of things. And also on the emergency management side, speaking to it more than just the fire, I guess at this point of this, and the question mark is with the funding that we have and the situation that we are now, I do realize that this is probably the worst timing to come ask for this position. However, given the exact amount off the top of my head, just over $15,000 for the salaries, that's that worst case scenario, not knowing who you're going to hire depending on their health coverage. It could be significantly less than that. But by having that additional funding for the salary, will open up the position to be classified so that way they can get the training to meet the training and certifications to meet the criteria to allow them to get to be reimbursed under the EMPG grant. For a little bit of history, I guess, the county had the EMPG grant funding back about 10 years ago when Addie Homburg was the emergency manager, and I believe maybe 2 years when Bill was the emergency manager. And then also for some history about that same time frame, the county fire district actually had an assistant fire chief that they thought was important at that point as well. However, that person at that position left the county to go, I believe it worked for Halliburton or something overseas, made 5 times the amount of money.
And we need someone that can step up and do what you're doing. So it is a position that's needed. And from what you explained to me, this really would not impact the budget as you could get the emergency management grant. Is that correct?
Correct. I was actually hoping that we could get it this year. However, the last class to make the criteria is not until the last week of July, which is going to be before I get all the credentials. Won't make it this year, so more than likely, yes, next year we should be able to get the grant.
Sure. So, okay, no, that's all I have to say.
Justin, anything?
I'll echo what Butch said when you and I discussed this. It was something that has been in the back of my mind since I started on the commission. Namely, you do a pretty dangerous job on occasion, and what happens if something happens to you? If you're sick, if you're
So when I'm gone, I have to specifically create a list of